Can you believe what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? What do you think right now? Your more than anything else, your thoughts right now, your reactions as to what's happening. Is this where you want this country to go? Are you feeling good about this? Are you feeling confident about this? Do you feel like this is the only way that we can handle this? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Your thoughts are critical more than anything on the horizon today. Your immediate thoughts. I want to hear from you right now as we delve into this. I would have never thought, that it would be this at this stage now. I hope I am wrong. I hope that we hear that at one particular moment, it's all a bluff on all sides, that calmer heads prevail, cooler heads prevail. Because the potential for what we are seeing right now, if you look around the world, is absolutely, positively frightening. Is this a World War III alert? Are we talking nukes on the table? U.S. targeting Iran? Trump sounds the alarm? Did you ever think we would get to this position at this point? My friends, I want to make sure you were subscribed to Lionel Nation. Make sure you weigh in. And the only thing I ask today, I cannot emphasize how grave this is, how serious this is. And I would just request, I would humbly and respectfully request that today we try to be as serious as possible in view of what is happening. That's all. I know sometimes it is not necessarily our inclination to think this way. I recognize it. Sometimes perhaps it's whistling past the graveyard, whatever the particular analogy you want to think of. But right now, this is very, very, very exceedingly serious. What are your thoughts? What are your motivations? What are your observations? I want to hear from you. Join us right now. And please, all I ask, just today, I know that sometimes it is not our nature to be, I don't want to be glum or solemn or funereal, but I do want to recognize the gravity of what we're talking about. So let's begin. But first, this critical moment and this critical message from our sponsor. Gold has remained a cornerstone of global wealth and financial security for centuries. And in times of economic uncertainty and inflation, gold is seen as a safe haven. With all-time high gold prices and renewed interest in precious metals, the demand for new high-grade gold discoveries is surging, and that's where I want to talk to you about a company called Opawica Explorations Incorporated. They trade on the U.S. market using the ticker symbol OPWEF, and they could well be positioned to capitalize on this trend, offering investors exposure to potential upside in the heart of Quebec's prolific mining country. They have their flagship gold exploration projects in Quebec's world-renowned Abitibi Gold Belt, and they're purely focused on achieving their next major goal, making the next significant gold discovery in one of the world's richest mining regions. Quebec is consistently ranked as one of the world's top mining jurisdictions, renowned for its strategic location for trade with the U.S., stable regulations, infrastructure, and rich mineral endowment. The Abitibi Gold Belt alone has produced over 190 million ounces of gold from 120 mines. Opawica's properties are strategically located near these giants, with one of the largest producing gold mines right next door to their Arrowhead property. They are literally surrounded by billion-dollar properties. Opawica's flagship Bazooka and Arrowhead properties are at the center of the action. The Bazooka property, adjacent to Yamana Gold's Wasamac project, has shown impressive gold grades in the past, and with the company launching an ambitious 20,000-meter drill program across its key project, the timing couldn't be better for investors looking to capitalize on the gold rush. One of the world's premier gold investors, Eric Sprott, is a major shareholder in Opawica Explorations. Sprott made a personal $1 million investment in the company's oversubscribed $5.28 million private placement, demonstrating strong confidence in Opawica's exploration potential and management team. His involvement places Opawica among a select group of junior explorers with direct backing from one of the most respected figures in the global gold investment community. Opawica's properties benefit from excellent infrastructure, including hydropower, road access, and proximity to mining services, allowing for cost-effective and sustainable exploration. This operational efficiency means more capital can be focused on drilling and resource expansion, enhancing shareholder value. With gold prices at record highs and the growing importance of domestic mineral production in North America, Opawica is uniquely positioned for growth. The company's ambitious exploration plans, prime location, and a world-class gold district and impressive historic results make it a compelling opportunity for investors seeking exposure to the next wave of gold discoveries. Opawica Explorations is currently trading around 11 cents per share, and with a comparable project in the area selling for $4.8 billion in 2023, the company could represent a significant opportunity for investors. With major drill programs underway, strong backing from Eric Sprott, and leadership from CEO Blake Morgan, a third-generation miner and the company's largest shareholder, Opawica offers substantial potential upside as it advances its exploration efforts. Thanks to Opawica Explorations for sponsoring today's video. You can get their latest presentation here on the website at opawica.com. This video is conducted on behalf of Opawica Explorations and was funded by Capitalize on It. I have been compensated for this video. I only express my opinion based on my experience. Your experience may be different. These videos are for educational and inspirational purposes only. Investing of any kind involves risk. While it is possible to minimize risk, your investments are solely your responsibility. It is imperative that you conduct your own research. There's no guarantee of gains or losses on investments. Please do your own due diligence. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not a financial advice channel. All information is provided strictly for educational purposes. It does not take into account anybody's specific circumstances or situation. If you are making investment or other financial management decisions and require advice, please consult a suitably qualified licensed professional. The securities of Opawica Explorations are speculative, and the company has not yet achieved consistent positive cash flow from operations. As a growth stage company, it anticipates negative cash flow for the foreseeable future as it focuses on development and commercialization efforts. Parties viewing this video should thoroughly review the company's public disclosure and documents available at sedarplus.ca. My friends, I ask you at this time, in fact, I was perusing every conceivable news source this morning, not just U.S. sources, but around the world. Everything from Jerusalem Post to Haaretz to RT to CCTV, to name it, just all over. It does not matter to get an idea of what is happening. But the people who are the most important to me, the people who I think make the most sense, are you. And so far this morning we have Raul says, I'm surprised at how fast it escalated. That is, again, you are right, Raul. Is there any chance that what has escalated is in fact in the rollout stage, so to speak? Barry Taylor says, it's hard to say, but meaningful change requires confronting hard truths about power, accountability, and the limits of military solutions. Now, I can read that a bunch of different ways. That's very interesting. Sparky, our most wise friend, said, victory has many fathers. Defeat is an orphan. You may quote me on that. I think we've heard that before, indeed. President Trump wanted to be one of the fathers and may have been fooled by Israel's perceived initial success. I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong regarding that. Pilgrim says, NSC Joint Chiefs and Trump have total commitment for better or worse. I believe this is the Hail Mary. The Hail Mary from whom? Excellent points of view. I thank you for that. The first question I ask, my dear friends, which is the most critical, is this necessary? That's the first question. The first aspect about war, the threat of war, or anything along those lines is this necessary? Is this something that America must find itself in, must be a part of? Is that it? Or is this something which is total posturing? Let's go through the possible questions right now. The questions are simply this. Do you believe the president has the best advice available? there is a dramatic, dare I say, a schism on the part of many people who were, for the longest part, I see, absolutely 100% committed to the president. You are seeing, and may I suggest to you, did you happen to catch Tucker Carlson's most fascinating interview or discussion with Ted Cruz? An absolutely brutal, and not excoriation, but an absolutely, again, brutal, for lack of a better word, a brutal takedown, so to speak, a takedown of President Ted Cruz, who seemed to know nothing about Iran or the people or anything about the rudiments. Now, let me say something to you right now, which is critical. And this is my advice to you. Do not feel that somehow your questioning war is in some way an abnegation or a refusal or dare I say, a reluctance to support President Trump. Being MAGA does not mean being a dupe. Raul says Trump has the best tainted information possible. The best tainted? Is that a pun of sorts? I think you're right about in that respect. I don't think that's necessarily what you were hoping for, but that's a most, dare I say, a most fascinating take. Let's look at what we have here, shall we? This is important. This is also very, very critical, and also very necessary for us to grasp in terms of the information. And I right now, I think, and I don't want to say this in a way that's overly dramatic, but there's a part of me that's very, very serious as to how serious this is. I don't want to be to the point where I'm sounding overly funereal, but I must nonetheless bring these facts up. The news is that President Trump has demanded Iran's unconditional surrender. Now, these terms, these words, I don't know if they were a misapplication of reality by the news organizations. A surrender of what and to whom? This is a global military and financial crisis that is unfolding. President Trump has issued his most forceful ultimatum yet to the Islamic Republic of Iran: unconditional surrender. And the words came from the Resolute desk just hours after a classified intel briefing confirming Tehran's involvement in multiple attacks against U.S. allies and shipping lanes in the Persian Gulf. Trump's message to the Iranian regime was not one of negotiation, but compromise, but raw, direct power. Stand down completely or face consequences no nation can endure. This is not a drill. This is not diplomacy by tweet or by X. This is the 47th president of the United States placing the full weight of the American military and its nuclear arsenal on alert. The Trump doctrine has returned, apparently unapologetically and unmistakably, and it has reshaped the global balance of power almost overnight. This is the road to confrontation. And it appears that tensions began to boil perhaps weeks ago when Iran-backed militias escalated attacks on commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. That's a very critical, very, very, very critical piece of real estate. And I think you know how that works. It's a very dangerous part where it breaks to the left or the right, depending on where you're going. And then it has to straighten up. And there's a very narrow area that needs guidance and needs particular precision to get through. A ship that is shuttered, a ship that is scuttled, it would be the end of everything. Christian Janice says, should Tulsi resign after the president said he doesn't care what she says? Let me ask you, should she resign politically? I don't think she has to. I think she cannot resign and have a way out. She can say that at this particular time, my commitment is to the administration, of which I swore to follow the Constitution. She can maybe back down, kind of move off, and not look like she's going to head for the hills during a time of potential war. Ultimately, it might hurt her for her to appear like I'm going to back off because I've been affronted, I've been slighted. I don't think she's going to step down. Sparky says President Trump can instantly redeem himself with MAGA by having the U.S. Navy carrier groups go after Israel instead of Iran. Now, I want to ask you a question. You are saying, seriously, and I'm not suggesting you're not being sincere. You're suggesting that President Trump can redeem himself with MAGA by having the U.S. carrier groups go after Israel. Bomb Israel? Is that what you're saying? It's I'll just leave it at this. That's most unique. That's not going to happen. I've seen this before. Each side will kill 100,000 and then sit down for a peace treaty. Thank you, Barry. Warren Ocasio says, I hope that soon we can get some clarity from the president on what happened to his anti-war views. I will tell you what happened. He will tell you that the situation has changed, that those anti-war views were applicable then, but this is a different time. Sparky says, it'll be a good way of breaking it off in Philadelphia's favorite son, too. Well, you do realize, my friend, he's referring to Mr. Netanyahu, that I understand certainly your anger. Many, many people feel this way, but I don't think the chance of that is in any way substantial or significant at this point. Pilgrim Media says, can I have some of what Sparky is smoking? Sparky, who is a good friend, I think exhibits a very powerful frustration that many people are feeling right now regarding what's going on. A very powerful, very real, and a very palpable frustration with what's going on right now. And irrespective of that, I think that what he's saying, even though perhaps maybe a tad, may I be so bold as to say hyperbolic, just a tad, nonetheless reflects what a lot of people are feeling. Because many people right now are saying to themselves, why are we involved in this? What is the necessity of this confrontation now? Why this vociferously? Why this angrily? Why is this happening now? What is the purpose behind this? Why the anger? Why the volume? Why the saber rattling, dare I say? That's not going to happen. But believe me though, normally I would say to folks that is a bit rare, but many people are feeling this. You can feel it. And not only in the anti-war group, but in the strongest of MAGA contingents, they're feeling absolute regret and neglect on the part of the president. This is serious business. And this is the part which is the most critical. They're wondering what is going on here. And as we said, tensions were beginning to boil, apparently, from reading the various stories weeks ago when Iran-backed militias. Now, that's an interesting thing. Iran-backed militias. They most probably are. When you say Iran-backed or militias that support Iran, They escalated attacks on commercial vessels, again, in the Strait of Hormuz. Multiple tankers were targeted with explosive drones and causing international markets to reel. And then came the some very serious instances of attacks and the like. Here is my question. And this is the way I am saying. This is what needs to be said. Do you think we are past the issue of talking about MAGA anymore? Do you think so? Do you think we have gone past? This is not just MAGA. Question number one I have. Do you think that most Americans at this point support President Trump? Now remember, there are people who didn't care for President Trump under any circumstances whatsoever. Now it's a different story. Sparky says, just thinking a bit out of the box, isn't that supposed to be good? As preposterous as it seems, it would actually redeem President Trump. I can tell you right now that for the majority of people, for the majority of individuals, for the majority of American citizens, if you were to say Iran to them, Iran, anything, Iran is considered to be, by many people, to be the bad guys, no matter what. Pilgrim says, these bad guys are going to end up in Europe scary. First and foremost, what would you advise the president? I don't think, and by the way, you can make, people are making references to the USS Liberty. I'm not exactly sure how that plays out necessarily. But Sparky says, redemption not only with MAGA, but with most of the world. The question is now simply this. Raul says, it seems the phrase MAGA has lost its sting. Maybe not necessarily its sting, but its import. The country, the United States, left, right, across, at this point, has no affiliation, no understanding, no sympathy, no anything with the notion of Iran. None. Let me say this again. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I am saying to you, if I had to advise the president, politically, they have been, since 1979, and because of steady and unrelenting media attacks, media push, media, you name it, the portrayal of them as being radicalized mullahs who are beyond redemption, theocratic radicals. Now, I'm not saying I believe this. I don't believe this for a moment. I don't believe any of that. But this is who they are. So the president, it would behoove the president to understand always, this is the way they are being portrayed. So anything that you do, don't let anybody fool you. The America, you've got to understand, America does not understand who these people are. The Americans do not understand Iran from Iraq, from what have you. So there is no love loss here. There is no pro-Iran contingent. There might be an anti-war. I think there are more people who are pro-Israel than are pro-Iran. Remember, pro-Iran. There's pro-Iran, but there's anti-war. And the anti-war folks are anti-war irrespective of anything else you've seen. The anti-war folks are a different story. So the question remains, and this is also important, what is it politically that the president has to concern yourself with, or himself with? Now, you might say, what does politics have to do with this? Everything. The next question is, do you think, or are you surprised by the seeming change of tenor? All of a sudden, there's this, I don't know what the word is, there's this change. At first, President Trump said, almost scolding, chiding Bibi Netanyahu to back off, take it easy, lay off the rhetoric. We're not necessarily going to go in. I thought, okay, that's at least interesting. Remember, there was almost the story was that he was incurring the wrath of Bibi and others, and then I don't know when, I don't know at what point, what date, I don't know. It changed almost immediately. It's as though something changed drastically. It's as though, let me ask you this question. What do you think accounts for the change of this? I'm going to ask the $1 million question. Do you think there is force being placed on the president other than some type of strategic military advice, some from the usual suspects? But do you believe that there could be, in view of all of this talk of extortion, with all of this discussion regarding Epstein and the like, do you think there is anything anywhere, in any way, that could be positioned or posed or propped up that might explain why the president seems to be so vociferous and passionate like that, turning on a dime? Or do you believe that maybe this was all strategic? This is the art of the deal, that somehow this is going to shock and awe the world, and that they're going to realize that they had best change their mind. They had best, and again, I don't know what they're going to do. Do you think that what could Iran do right now to avoid war? So the first question I have is, the most important. Do you think there's any way possible that the president might have been or could have been, I don't want to say extorted. That's a tough word, but that there may be reasons other than the obvious. Raul says, if Trump strong arms Iran, will New York City pay for it? The country pays for it in terms of oil. There's one thing. Americans can talk all day long about geopolitical, whatever it is. But when it comes to oil, that's a different story. And if anybody does anything that affects the price of oil, again, we're talking about President Trump demanding unconditional surrender as the U.S. and Tehran prepare for war. The U.S., why? Why are we going to go to war with Iran? Other than the desires of Israel and Bibi Netanyahu, what threat does Iran pose to us? The world right now is standing on the edge of a major, huge global conflict. And what people are saying is, do you think Iran should have a nuclear weapon or should be able to have them? And the issue is, well, if you say no, and many, many people think it's no, is this the best way to prevent that? Other people are saying the other kind of a side issue is, who are we to tell Iran that they can't have a nuclear weapon, but other people can? So President Trump right now is issuing this chilling ultimatum to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Unconditional surrender. This is different, unheard of, bold, historic demand amid the rising military tensions and warnings from intel sources that Tehran is preparing to strike U.S. military bases across the Middle East. Not here. And in recent days, Iranian leadership has shifted from posturing to outright threats. Missile systems are reportedly being moved into position. Iranian naval forces are maneuvering aggressively in the Persian Gulf. Military analysts believe that that the regime is considering closing the Strait of Hormuz, a move, and I cannot tell you this enough, a move that would block nearly a fifth of global oil traffic. President Trump has responded with a tone of unmistakable force. In a statement released earlier this week, he declared specifically, absolutely, that the United States will not hesitate to unleash, listen to this, the full might of the U.S. armed forces should a single American life be harmed. And from the White House briefing room to Truth Social, his message is loud and clear. He says, America is ready for war, and if it comes, Iran will not survive it. Have you ever heard anything like this in recent times? What is the necessity of this? What is the reason for this? Why? Think of the ecological disaster that awaits. What Americans are going to worry more than anything, remember, Wall Street is going to adjust one way or the other, but America is going to be asking itself, what do we do? How do we respond to this? And if gas is $20 a gallon, forget it. This is huge. Remember, there is not a significant difference, if anything, between the Trump administration and that of the Biden administration. Tony Blinken, who pretty much ran the country. Now, Tehran is ramping up its rhetoric. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, or not Khomeini, but Khamenei, has warned that any U.S. involvement would lead to all-out war. And the regime insists it will retaliate with full strength if provoked. And this suggests American bases in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf states are already being targeted. And here's something else which is important. If it is being targeted by not just Iran, but every other country, what happens then? Think about that. Think about how this works. Think about how all of this works. It is the most critical. My friends, I'm trying to tell you this, and I'm not going to be one of these people who just loves to, because now is not the time for hyperbole. I know that's a difficult time, but this is scary stuff. Sparky says, Putin and Z know what President Trump says for public consumption isn't to be taken literally. But Trump's public persona, intentionally like a pro wrestling character, isn't he different in person? You know what, Sparky, I'm going to tell you just what I believe. Always I will. Somebody is telling him something that I don't think is, I don't think this is Trump. This is completely inconsistent with the art of the deal. There's no deal here. There is no deal. The United States is being played, is being involved, primarily because, if not exclusively because of Israel. This is the only way to read this. And I'm wondering who is advising him. If I sat down and spoke to President Trump, knowing who he is, remember who he is, remember what his attitude is. President Trump wants to be everything to everyone, but not, and he realizes he's not going to make everybody happy. That there's no doubt about that. He's got to ask himself the question, a very, very simple thing. Are you going to be the negotiator? Because you can, if this posturing, once you go too far, people are saying, that's it. Also, Sparky will verify this. What is the mentality of the enemy? When I say the enemy, let me rephrase that. The other side. What is their mentality? There are some people who are able to, quote, negotiate, and there are other people who view this as a complete and total shot across the bow. A shot across the bow to the extent that you have left any chance of negotiating. Somebody told me, I remember years ago, in Israel itself, it was somebody who was there in their I guess their State Department, you might say. They said, you don't understand the way these people think. It's a mentality that is Saladin and loud and brash. And as Raul says, does Jordan have a dog in the fight? Oh, Jordan is there always to assist, to figure out. Jordan, King Muhammad, or Abdullah, excuse me, I think is the most careful because he doesn't really, he can't turn his back on his neighbors, but he is clearly aligned with, dare I say, the West. But let me say this. I would say to the president, you can't threaten these people unless you carry through this. You can't do this. There's no need for this. There's no time frame. This has been going on for years. It seems as though you are acting in a way that is accelerating this for purposes of making a tough guy stance. You don't play tough guys with these people. Carla says, America almost feels like mind control. He can't please everyone, so he's really pulling the strings. Carla, thank you. But ask the question, how does he back away from this? The thing which is the most important is back channel. Please tell me that he is back channeling this. Please tell me he has other people saying, don't worry. I know I'm saying this in public, but that doesn't mean that's our official position. That's just for the world, and that's just for my people, and that's just for the Democrats, and that's for what have you. Sparky says, President Trump surrounds himself with people who, at the least, work at cross purposes with him. Some mislead him and even directly lie to him, knowing he's too busy to fact check them. Sparky, I agree with you. Raul says, does Jordan have a... Oh, I think you said that. Do you have a dog in the fight? Yeah, as I said before, Sparky, they have a dog, certainly in the fight because of their positioning, but they are subsidiary, but they have to maintain a balance. They cannot look like they're capitulating to the West. Sparky is saying something which is very true. The people that you are dealing with, Trump likes saber rattling in the open. He loves Truth Social stuff. He loves, we will unleash a firepower. There's no need to do this. There's no need. They know what we have. There's no need. It's almost like, why are you saying this? They know what we have. If you really want to scare people, talk more like Putin. Putin's very understated. That's the most frightening. We're going to have to explain this. And let me bring this to your attention. Please forgive me if I seem confused, because I'm not. I just have many. Which particular area do you want to deal with? There's the political part, there's the geopolitical part, and there's the other part. As an American citizen, I'm saying this is insane. This is insane. Iran has posed no threat to us to warrant this kind of behavior, this way, this loudly. None. This looks as though we are doing this unnecessarily. Number two, I would tell the president, it looks as though you are doing this to appease Bibi. Now, whether you like this or not, depending upon how you feel, you don't want to ever look like you're acting as the water carrier for Israel. Carla, the cooking CEO, says, this is our Wicca ponds of the is that Mars destruction moment? You've got me right there. Very, very, very interesting. Do you think most importantly, Carla, that we have reached a point of no return? Bradley says, what's the difference between the Iran's regime and the criminals walking free in the U.S.? Why aren't our war criminals in jail? Please answer. Why aren't our war criminals in jail? Well, first, the problem is that to identify war criminals, it's not as easy as you think. Who's a war criminal? This is a different story. Now, let me go back to what I was saying. I would explain to the president, you have got to maintain the position of your legacy, your name, your power base. You cannot look like you are the proxy or the soldier or the agent for anybody. What they're going to be saying, Mr. President, is that you are acting as the Luca Brasi, as the enforcer for Israel. Do you want that? Does that mean anything to you in the least? You cannot have it. You are the art of the deal. You have got to be as though to look as though you are in charge. This has been frenetic. One day this, one day that. You say this, then you change your mind. You must look as though you're in charge. And you've got to understand, why are you threatening the United States? Why are you threatening the world? What is it? Let me repeat, and I'm going to be saying this over and over and over again. No one is suggesting that keeping Iran from having a nuclear weapon isn't a noble goal. We'll talk about that in a moment. It's what you're doing. Why are you pushing for war? You are also going to be collaborating. Let me ask you this. Do you see what is happening? Do you find yourself, this is on a very simple level, do you find yourself listening to people that you weren't particularly that wild with before? I'll give you a perfect example. Greta Thunberg recently made more sense than you could ever imagine. Greta Thunberg made more sense. Greta Thunberg. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Greta Thunberg. I'm thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding me. I'm listening to Greta Thunberg? Yes. Steve Bannon. Now when I say, remember, it's never personal with me. It's not like I'm saying I don't like these people or I have a gripe against them. It's their message. Carla, the cooking CEO, says, President Trump needs to stand firm, trust his conscience, and do what's right for Americans, not for others' political gain. Yes, absolutely. Sparky says, President Trump's people, Lindsey Graham and the legacy media, concentrated on establishing false premises in Trump's mind, even between his presidencies. Graham pretended his golfing buddy. Yes. Lindsey Graham, Gomer Pyle, is the most dangerous person today. Why anybody is listening to him, I have no idea. Now, I can tell you what it looks like, and I don't know who's responsible. It looks as though Lindsey Graham is acting directly and as an agent of, as a proxy of, and we'll just use this term for shorthand. And I don't know how correct it is, AIPAC or Israel. That's the way it's being presented. Lindsey Graham may tell you privately, if you can come up with a better deal, you let me know. I was doing great. I am now picking up the baton. I'm picking up the soul, dare I say, of the effort. I'm John McCain too. I'm going to outmaneuver you like you cannot believe. I'm going to outmaneuver you. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going to show you. This is Lindsey Graham. And whoever pays me, military industrial complex, Israel, whatever, that's fine with me. Also, let me explain something to you as well. And I'm going to say something which is really kind of interesting for you to know. There are many, many people who, for the longest time, hear me out, have questioned Lindsey Graham's sexuality, his manliness, his toughness, whether he is indeed the tough guy they thought he was. There are people who are saying, seriously, I'm not trying to be cute here. I'm not trying to, I personally don't think it matters one way or the other. But he loves this. Mike Pompeo. What is Mike Pompeo doing, negotiating or speaking? Do we have a Logan Act anymore? A Logan Act prevents individuals. It prevents private citizens from acting and negotiating on the part of the government. Do you understand this? Do you understand how this thing works? Raul Rodriguez says, if the U.S. goes to war, how will Turkey react? Erdogan just said, I'm 100% with Iran. What about Russia? What about China? What about people who say, we won't help openly, but we will provide you with weapon systems and help? And remember, this is not just being negotiated now. This has been a contingency since day one. You don't just jump in and help Iran at the last moment. This has been going on for years. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is, why? And I would say to the president, why are you doing this? Mr. President, you were going to be the uniter, not the divider. As I said, Greta Thunberg's making sense. Steve Bannon, who, nothing against him personally, but Steve Bannon I've listened to, and I'm thinking, he makes a lot of sense. Tucker Carlson is the John Foster Dulles, so to speak. He is the noble statesman. Did you see him? The way he spoke to Ted Cruz was just, it was brutal. And I loved it. You have that. And I would say, Mr. President, do you want to be perceived as, pardon my expression, Bibi's bitch? Because to make it very clear, this is the way people are perceiving this. They're looking at this right now and they're saying, Iran has no threat to the United States. Again, remember I'm saying this. And remember I'm repeating this. Nobody is suggesting that Iran should get off the hook. But what about diplomacy? This is the way we work. We don't go to war when somebody disagrees with us. Sparky says, wasn't Israel guilty of piracy or something like that when they intercepted Greta's boat on the open seas, kidnapped the occupants, and made them throw their smartphones into the sea? I could see absolutely, put it this way, Sparky, you bring up a good point. If any other country had done this, would they have been guilty? Yes. Yes. I'm with you. Does subpoena and lying under oath matter anymore? No. No. We live in a world of double standards. We can do it for thee and not for me. I can do it. You can't do it. Think about how we have folks who are for the first time coming together who've never, I mean it. There are folks, listen to, and I don't want to go down the list because they don't represent anything, but I'll give you an example. The if you will, anti-Zionist movement, for years, Finkelstein, others, just go down the list. Pick your favorite. The Max Blumenthals, the Aaron Mates, and now, think about this. Just go down the list. Judge Napolitano. I'm listening to these folks all the time. Scott Ritter, Colonel McGregor, John Mearsheimer, Pepe Escobar. Go down the list. Whether you like them or not, whether you think they're a lefty or an American, not to mention a litany of lefties. Piers Morgan, who is cretinous, by the way. Piers Morgan is cretinous. I told you this. He makes Geraldo Rivera look like, Niels Bohr. He right now is saying, this is enough. This is crazy. We've forgotten totally about Gaza. Remember, this isn't about Gaza. This is Iran. And a couple of things to worry about. Those people who live in Gaza have to worry themselves that maybe something worse is happening to them right now. I don't know. Is anybody watching them? But so we also have these folks who are, see, I'm in this unique position, and I'm telling you right now, strategically, have you seen this Anna Kasparian or whatever her from the Young Turds screaming, yelling, screaming at Israel, absolutely out of her mind, losing it. I don't respect that. But what she's saying, the information she's saying, is 100% correct. Her delivery may be off. And I told you, we've got this, I'm in this weird position where I'm telling you, this makes no sense. I'm not pro-Iran, pro-Israel. This has nothing to do with, I'm not personal about this. I have no beef against any country. None. I believe in this whole world, this thing about being kind of like a citizen of the world. But Piers Morgan, who despises me, who blocks me, I didn't even know I was blocked. I like when people block you from Twitter or X. What are you blocking? I'm not communicating with you. All right, fine, he did it. Even my once friend George Galloway, he's upset with me, I guess because I don't know. I'm not vociferous enough. I'm not loud enough. I don't know. But what's interesting is that we're all on the same page. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm in the car and I'm saying we go this way. We're going this way. You may want to go for one reason. He may want to go for another reason. I'm saying, I'll let you argue all you want. We're going this way. This is ridiculous. This isn't the country I've seen. I never, ever thought I would be seeing President Trump do this. Never. I always said, yeah, there was the Israeli, the lobby, AIPAC. Yeah. And I said, look, and I still say, there's nothing wrong with there being an Israeli lobby. We have the climate lobby, trial lawyers lobby, gun lobby, you name it. There's a lobby for everything. Trans lobby, this lobby. Why shouldn't they? There should be a European lobby. Of course there is. Go to DC and you'll bump into lobby. Big tech, Silicon Valley, they have a lobby. Do you see anything wrong? Anything at all? Do you have something? Do you really, honest to God, do you see anything that is the most, do you see, and I mean this sincerely, do you see anything that benefits us to have another country basically tell us what to do? Ever since they were pushing Barack Obama around. Do you remember this? They pushed Barack Obama around. And I wasn't a big Barack Obama fan. But Bibi Netanyahu came in, he said, what's going on? I don't understand this. Excuse me. This is our president. This is our government. You don't tell us what to do. This isn't our fight. B. Seminole says, didn't they say Iran was a target years ago? Could this be an elaborate plan, years in the making? Everything has been years in the making. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing. But what I would tell the president was, do you understand how this looks? First, Mr. President, you must remain resolute and consistent. Watch how Putin acts. Very calm, very consistent. Number two, if you promise something, you gotta come through with this. Number three, what's very interesting, the left and the right, in this particular case, are both kind of in agreement. Andrew Hessing says, bingo on the blackmail. The contrast is too great. Sometimes stereotypes show themselves they are not completely without merit for any race or religion. Don't know what that means, but here's what I'm wondering. I'm just throwing it out there. It's probably not You know, I always thought to myself, if ever they got to the president, if ever they got to the president, it wouldn't be through him necessarily. It wouldn't be that they were targeting President Trump, but they would target or maybe threaten his family. Don Jr. Don Jr. has been very quiet lately. Why is that? Eric, completely off the radar. Is it because they were involved in their business interests? Maybe they learned last time. I don't know. But the idea that all of a sudden somebody would say, listen, Mr. President, you better be very careful. Let me just say it this way. People are suggesting that with the Epstein files, Israel or Bibi or somebody has got the goods and the dirt on Trump. And that Trump better play along with them or else they're going to divulge this. Have you heard this before? Have you thought this? You had to have thought this because that is a possibility. You look at the possibilities and then you have to assess how likely is this. But first of all, you say, let's look at all the possibilities. Put them on a chalkboard and just eliminate them. I'm less inclined to believe that. I always thought, and I don't know this for a fact, but I've always believed that the president is somebody that is prone to certain things such as, let me say this, such as the last guy in the room. What do I mean by this? I would say, make sure you take the president and take him to the mountain. We used to have an expression years ago. I saw this when I was involved in politics right out of college. I worked for a U.S. senator. Pilgrim Media says, I don't know what this is, Sig Big Weapons Industry, AI, dealing the cards. CLD Big, I don't know what that means. Oh, AI is a huge. Palantir is huge in this. Philadelphia's favorite son fled to Greece but blocked regular Israel's exit. Yes, leaving them to fight among themselves like rats in the bomb shelters. He only allows tourists and diplomats to leave. You know, you bring that up a very interesting point. The perception that was made, or the perception that was had, Sparky, and this is important, was that they were telling Israeli citizens that you can't leave, yous can't leave, because of they were being held for either human shields or the like. That's the perception that was being made. That the prohibition of them leaving was for a number of reasons, but for other reasons as well. Keep in mind, and forgive me because I've got so many thoughts going on, and if I've seemed more disconnected than usual, I apologize. But Iran is a country that has 100 million, 90 whatever million people. It is the size of Western Europe. It is the size basically of the eastern seaboard of the United States. It's huge. It's got about almost 900,000 military. They are perceived as funny. We Americans, if you see somebody who has a different uniform or a funny hat or has a beard, people look at them as they can't be that serious. Iran has been basically in a state of war forever. They're ready to go, okay? And who is their benefactor? The world. Who is Israel's benefactor? Us. Now remember, bunker busters, if you drop this, it's this repeated drop. You drop these things over and over because they know where at least they say they know where Iran's nuclear weapons are. They're in mountains, and they know how to supposedly drop these bunker busters, these series of precision drops. The first one goes in, the second one follows even deeper, and they keep pinpoint dropping this. This involves a level of precision. It's like, this is war. This is war. If tomorrow someone thought, if Spain said, I don't want France to have a nuclear weapon, and it attacked France, or it attacked Macron, what do you think would happen? We would say, you can't do this. We do it. Carla says, do you think the deep state has their plan for the crown prince of Iran? Everybody has their crown prince. You know who their crown prince is going to be? Pahlavi. This is the Shah's son. He is bought and sold. He is going to be the titular head, Carla, of Iran, if ever that happens. Oh, they have the next group that's in, ready to go. But which deep state? Which shadow government? Who? You know, Tony Blinken. Don't be surprised if Tony Blinken is on board with Trump, who's saying this is fantastic. Don't be surprised the number of people who say, you're doing what we have been wanting to do for the longest time. We're a country that target assassinates people. We go after the head of state, of countries, people in general. We will just take Salome, others. Remember that fellow, is it Zarqawi? We went after him and got him. I think, who was the American citizen? We go after people. Let me explain it. We do whatever we want. The United States does whatever it wants. We say, you can't have a nuclear weapon. Who are you? The United States. You can't have a nuclear weapon. Well, we don't have a nuclear weapon. We want to do this to develop a nuclear program for medical and peaceful. It's bullshit. You know it and I know it. That's bullshit. What do you mean? That's bullshit. Bullshit. How do you know it's bullshit? We know it's bullshit because it just is. You can't. That's not what you want to do. We know all about what you're trying to do. You can't have that. But you have it. We're different. You can't have that. Why can't they have that? I don't know. Have you heard the European Union? What are they saying? Where are they? And Putin is sitting back and he's thinking, this is fantastic. Well, go ahead. I'm not so bad after all. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden, and who was it? Couple of things are going to happen. Down the road. Number one, Lindsey Graham is going to go away like that. One day he's going to just go away. One day it's like, that's enough. One day he's going to be disco. He's going to be bell bottoms. He's going to be vaudeville. He's going to say, that's enough. You annoy the shit out of us. We don't know what you're about. All of a sudden, you can get real creepy. All of a sudden. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. Pee Wee Herman, creepy weird. Incident in Sarasota, forget it. Then he's back, then he's not. It's the strangest thing. Britney Spears, sad, weird, creepy. Follow the perception of this. That's number one. Number two, you're going to see a complete and total realignment of the conservative party in this country. And you're going to see it big time with Fox News. Now, Rupert Murdoch is going to say, I don't give a shit one way or the other because I'm worried about my family, my billions, and this is where we're going. We will never go out of business. CNN is hanging on for dear life. You know that, right? CNN is hanging on for dear life. They split CNN into two different groups, and one group is basically telling them, you're out, you're done. They don't want to just decapitate CNN. They're trying to see, we're going to pretend that we have we're going to do something with the inventory. So you're going to see something huge. And all of these people, all of a sudden, I don't know when, but it's almost like, have you ever had a zit? And all of a sudden, ooh, it hurts. You get that little red, ooh, and you wait for it to come to a head. Hate to use this analogy, but you wait. It turns red and you say, come on. Not yet. Not yet. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, there's a little white head. Wait a minute, we're almost there. And then you say, now it's perfect. The purulence, the pustule, the lymph. It's come to the top. Now you pop it. Now we're off. Israel is something that doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people who've never paid attention to it before. Never paid attention to it. People said, well, look, that's Israel's time. Israel, good people, land of the Bible. There's always going to be something there. There's always some kind of an argument, always some kind of there's always something going on. What are you going to do? Yeah, we support it. And that was the length of Americans' involvement. They would look at Israel and say, you know what? They've been through a hard. They're surrounded by, right? They're surrounded by enemies. They're the only democracy in the Middle East. This is what people say. October the 7th, we kind of know what that was like. They're trying to defend themselves. They left Gaza. We're not talking about Gaza. Gaza is no. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he said, well, Gaza. I said, we're past Gaza. This is Iran. This has nothing to do with Gaza. People are still thinking this is Gaza. No, Gaza's done. We're not finished. Now, if I was a Gazan, be very careful because nobody's looking. And if nobody's looking, that's not good for you. So people are going to get to the point where they're going to say, you know what? We're not sure about this anymore. Why are we doing this? When the public perception becomes that Israel, is getting us involved in this war, that's it. Everybody lost interest in Iraq and Afghanistan. You notice that? After 9/11, after PNAC, everybody said, we're going to get these bastards. And all of a sudden they said, that's enough. Let me give you an analogy. During the Vietnam War, there was a time when there was great patriotism in this country. Great patriotism. People came forward and people were really involved in this. It's in America. We got to stand behind our troops. And in 1965 or whatever it was, there were people who said, my father fought in World War II and in Korea and World War I, and we come from a family of stalwarts and a family of centurions and a family of soldiers, and we have to stand by our flag. Remember that? This was Vietnam. Put silver wings on my son's chest. Love it or leave it, baby. All you remember how the left looks like the trans freaks and the blue-haired, pink-nosed lunatics. We hated those people. Okay, remember that? This was Vietnam. This was this was actually one from the 50s, but in 75 it ended theoretically. And then all of a sudden, what changed everything was the grandmothers came out of the woodwork. The Catholic priests came out of the woodwork. The folks who were involved in this, I don't know what this word is, this movement where they said, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. And you had the long hairs and the nuns and the grandmothers and the mothers and sports people who said, this is no good. The moment, I'm telling you, the moment the Strait of Hormuz, and also remember what the Houthis control that path to the Red Sea. That's another one in these very small little portals. The moment they have it, things change. Now, I'm going to say something which you always have to think about. But if you play chess, if you're doing anything, you have to say, what would I do if I was the enemy? If I were the enemy? What would I do? The first thing, and I don't want this, believe me, I don't want this. But the first thing I would do is I would tell somebody, you have to create dissent in America among the citizens. You have to cause a political upheaval. The Democrats are going to want this to an extent. Everybody wants it. There is a TDS force, the likes of which you can't believe. Number two, Nobody is calling for war. Nope. Nobody. Not this one. This one we don't understand. We understood 9/11. Americans understood that. We don't understand this one. This is a different story. Sparky says Hogan's heroes fooled Colonel Klink into thinking World War II was over using fake newspapers and broadcasts. That idea is used to fool President Trump. Point this out to Trump. He likely remembers that episode. Well, I'm sure if anybody can get a hold of him, they will certainly do this. But thank you for that. If I were in charge of the bad guy, so to speak, I would say, let's bring this to a head. Take out a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. When American gas goes $20 a gallon, that's it. Energy independence, my ass. This idea that, well, we got all the oil reserve. No. Watch what happens. That's number one. Number two, America doesn't understand what it's like when the world turns against it. We always turn against other countries. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden you see a weird realignment. China, Russia, Turkey. Nobody understands Turkey in this country very, very well. Erdogan's a unique character. Syria, Saudi Arabia. They're going to play this. Emirates, Kuwait. Go through the list. That's that. And they're going to say, Mr. President, what do we do? Bring out what? The energy? Who's our Department of Energy? I don't know who that is. Bring somebody out. Gas is $20 a gallon. What do we do? What do we do? Now, Democrats come along and they say the reason for this is because of this foolhardy, crazy Trump who not only goes after his own citizens and the poor misguided illegal aliens, but he goes after the world. And now we're going to have to pay for him. So now we have political upheaval. We've got people running theoretically for the midterms who are going to be saying, what do I do with this? Next, what does J.D. Vance do? What does J.D. Vance do? Wait till you see people jump ship. And you'll see a bunch of people follow the particular move of Tucker. They'll say, I'm not abandoning the president. I'm giving you a nuanced take. Carla says, Arnold on The View was priceless. Did you happen to see, thank you for that, Carla. Did you happen to see Javier Bardem on The View as well? Just slam Israel? See, you're seeing something for the first time. There is not a clear-cut, who's with me on this? Okay, everybody, raise your hand in the group. How many of you are against $20 a gallon oil? Everybody's hand goes up. How many of you would like to reverse that, but you have to support President Trump? A couple of hands will go down. More than you think. How many of you want to realign and redefine what it is that we are for? What is it that we are for? By the way, bad news left. We don't care about abortion. This Zoltan Mamami, this guy who's running for mayor of New York. We don't know. ICE raids, and let me tell you what's going to happen. People are complaining now that the president is too tough on illegals, right? And they're actually looking for an increase in ICE raids. No, excuse me. They're trying to call out ICE raids. I'm going to turn around and say, you better understand something. The Iranians are already here, and they're going to send their agents and proxies, and you're going to want ICE raids. Believe me when I tell you that. That's going to change. Going back to what I said before, if I were the opposite, I would do a couple of things. Number one, I'm sorry to say this, but I got to tell you this. First I'd go to Sparky, who would say, Senator Ted Cruz just wants the higher oil prices since he's a Texas U.S. Senator. It's why voters should lean away from having Texas-based presidents. I think the idea of Texas and oil, that might have been big during the J.D. Clampett days and the Beverly Hillbillies. This is a different story. This is a different story. He is a neocon, but he is, and let me put it this way. Answer me a question. Again, forgive me for jumping. I've got 1,000 things I want to tell you at the same time. I want to ask you the most brutal thought question there is. Okay? If tomorrow, listen to what I'm saying. If tomorrow there was no, quote, Israeli lobby. Now work with me on this. Just follow me. It's a thought experiment. If for some reason AIPAC or the Adelsons, by the way, there's nothing illegal, nothing wrong, absolutely understood. Everybody has a lobby. Why shouldn't they have a lobby? Why everybody, the Christian right has a lobby. Everybody has a lobby. The question then, and this is the most important, the question you got to ask yourself is simply this. Oh, Carla says, don't mess with Texas. Well, again, that may be true. But Carla, I don't think that's, it's not Texas. Don't mess with, and by the way, thank you. Don't mess with, I'm sorry to say this, AIPAC. Here's my question. If tomorrow, hypothetically, I could snap my fingers and AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, disappeared, meaning monies, it has been rumored, I don't know if this is true or not, where they actually have not an agent, but a lobbyist assigned to each member of Congress. And they are told, if you don't go along with us, we will primary you next time. Now remember, that's good lobbying. That just makes sense. That just makes complete and total sense. Other people do this as well. Silicon Valley does this. But let me go back to my original question. And again, remember, I'm going to be called anti-Semitic because that's part of this new trope, this new tropism, where you have to go out and you have to say, this is anti-Semitism. You have to conflate Israeli opinion as to policy with something anti-Judaism, which is ridiculous. But do you think there would be a Lindsey Graham? Do you think there would be a Ted Cruz? Do you think there would be a Marco Rubio? These virulent pro-Israel, I don't want to say pro-Zionist because that throws people off. But do you think so? Do you think there would be, seriously, do you think there would be anything like this? Would Lindsey Graham be this vociferous, this in lockstep? Do you think Lindsey Graham would be this loud, this vocal, this? Do you think, who was it? Marco Rubio, who said, you got that thing rolling? You look at me. And he got in the camera and he says, I represent, and this. Do you think there would be a Ben Shapiro, who basically says, people were saying, I'm a proud, or Israel's my country. And remember, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. That would be like you, Carla. Like there are people who are for South American interests. Brazil, out of BRICS. Nothing wrong with that. You know, and I know, that if that money was not there, if that connection was not there, if that promise for campaign donations to keep your political career afloat, not to mention all of the tangential benefits, you know and I know, I don't know, half, a third, 70%, whatever, they would have nothing to do with this. Because there are Americans who have absolutely no interest whatsoever in Israel. None. There are others, by the way, Christian Zionists, who are very serious because they believe from an eschatological point of view, a biblical point of view, an end of times point of view. They've always believed that that is an important part because that is going to be tribulations. That is going to be the end of the world. Christ is going to return there. Dead serious. This is eschatology 101. So understand that. Understand how that works. This is a reality. This is a reality. Ben Shapiro and others, Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, and Sean Hannity seems to be, this is the most important. Did you hear what Tucker had to say? By the way, we all, and I've got no beef against Sean. I've known him for years. Nice guy, no problem, no. But he's a very smart figure, or a figurine, so to speak. He has always been this one consistent voice, follows in the heart of Rush Limbaugh. And anybody who follows Rush Limbaugh or Bill O'Reilly is the luckiest man in the world. He is not, as he approaches 70 years old, at the end, he is not. He's made a fortune. What is he, 300, 400 million dollars? Who knows? What be more than that? He says, I'm in this 100%. But people are saying, wait a minute. This doesn't make any sense to me. This doesn't make any sense. And this is where we come out. We come forward. Oh, let me go back. I'm sorry, I hate to do this. If I worked for the other side, so to speak, for Iran, I'm going to say, you better do something right now. First and foremost, if the gas prices go up, people are going to change their mind. Now, let me ask you this. If you hear anybody, if you see anything that happens in this country, anything, anybody who detonates remember, it would be very easy to use a tunnel or Disney World or Wall Street or Las Vegas. It's very simple. But if you see this, it is almost going to be 100% guaranteed false flag. Guaranteed. Why? Because if I represent the and again, pro-war with Iran, anti-war with Iran. But if I wanted Americans to get behind a war with Iran, the first thing I would do is I would artificially create, I'm sorry to say this, but you don't need me to tell you this. This goes without saying. I would create a false flag situation. Something that is enough to get the pages to turn America to say, you know what? Get them. We were kind of on the fence about Iran before. We didn't really understand, but now those bastards get them. Be very, very careful. Makes the most sense because you have to capture the hearts and the minds of people in order for you to do well and to win. Now, in the meantime, Gaza, forgotten. Be very careful, Gazans, Palestinians, because nobody's looking. Nobody's looking. By the way, let's talk about that for a moment. Would you want to share your country with anybody? Nope. Well, what if they were there first? I don't give a damn whether they were there first. I don't want them there. Sparky says, Israel has poured tons of money into individual Protestant churches in recent decades. Church leaders who cashed the checks are pro-Israel. Congregations went along at first, but now are very disgusted. There was again, thank you for this, Sparky, the Christian Zionism. The idea of people who basically said, these are wonderful people. We have something in mind. And by the way, remember something. This is the ultimate in irony. Many of the so-called Christian Zionists were folks who basically were anti-Semitic in their own right, who basically wanted Jews to leave, to go back to Israel, get out. It sounded, not all, many of them said, we absolutely support Zionism. Now go. This is your homeland. Get out. You're not going to hear that. But there were people who believed that. I remember something too. The percentage, you always have to keep in mind the people involved in the percentage. The percentage of Jews, Israelis, and the like in the world are de minimis. De minimis. Sparky says, individual Protestant churches in the Bible Belt, to be specific. Oh, many of them are. Remember, who was it? Some of the loudest pro not pro. It sounds like it's a faction. Again, this is, and many of them were sincere. They looked at Israel as being, this is where we're going to meet. This is where Jesus is going to reunite with us. This is biblical prophecy. Carla says, tragedy unites the masses. White flag will be coming either from the CCP or Israel. A white flag. Interesting. CCP is sitting back. They're not involved. They're just waiting. They're going to be helping out Iran for sure. A white flag? You mean a surrender? I don't know. Think how this looks, Carla. Did you see the pictures of people leaving Tehran? There's like 10 million people. Imagine if there's more people in Tehran than in New York. Imagine if we told New Yorkers, leave. Leave where? Did you see the traffic? And who was it? You know who I want to say something to you, and I'm trying to be very, very, very how do I say this? Very fair here, okay? But Tammy Bruce, did you hear this? I hear this false exclamation. I don't know what's false, but I'm with you, Carla. Thank you. There is did you see, in fact, Carla and others, Tammy Bruce? What is she, the State Department? She's State Department spokesman, or they actually had her issuing an advisory not to travel to the Middle East or either Iran or what? I forget exactly. President Trump loves people who are on TV. He loves them. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi's thinking, God, thank God, I'm forget this Epstein thing. I'm over here. Tammy Bruce, Carrie Lake, who was I think in charge of VOA, Bobby Kennedy. He loves. And by the way, Bobby Kennedy. Remember, Bobby Kennedy, carrying literally, and I use that term, literally carrying the Israeli flag with Shmuley Boteach. It's terrible. They call him Reverend Buttplug. It's horrible. But you wonder, he's now going to be saying, what happens to what's going on here? Andrew says, Trump is fighting on too many fronts, engineered by the deep state and globalists in lockstep to get what they want, play, set, and match. I think you're right in that the president really does not understand why he's doing this. I mean this. And when I say this to you, people get very upset because they say, no, President Trump is a genius. 4D chess. You don't understand this. 4D chess. He's a genius. He's a genius. Well, I don't know if he's a genius, but this is what people actually believe. He's a genius. This man is. I don't want to go that far. I really look. I think he's a good man, but he's a guy who doesn't have really any clue as to the level of perfidy, the level of institutionalized treachery that you see in Washington from these people. Tucker Carlson was talking to Steve Bannon, and they were talking about something that's very interesting. Tucker Carlson said something which I found interesting. Tucker Carlson said he doesn't recognize Washington anymore. Carla says, I meant to say false flag. Either one of those two could be the culprit behind a false flag event. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, there's so many moving parts to this. The president, Carla, should have basically said, I'm going to do back channel. I'm going to do this thing my way. And I'm going to send over my envoy. And I want to tell these folks, and I'm going to sit down with Iran, and I'm going to sit there and say, what do you want? We want you to stop this. And if they said, look, all I want is this. I want enough research to provide enough not weapons grade, but health grade for uranium or nuclear programs for peaceful means, energy, medical. Verify this all we want. Get Scott Ritter in there, the UAEA, whoever. Get these people in there to say, okay, let's do this. There's no reason. The world is better off with clean nuclear. It's like the difference between hemp and cannabis to get high. They're technically the same, but chemically drastically different. That's what should have been done. That's what should have been done. Bibi basically says, we want them gone. And I would say, Bibi, you don't understand. They're going to do what you want. No. I have to have them gone. Bibi, we can't get rid of Iranians. They're here. How much of Bibi's own personal plight, and to understand what's going on, you have to recognize it. How much of his own personal plight, how much of his own particular problems that he has with indictments and the like. Do you have any idea how much of this is responsible? Let me also bring up something for you to understand. He has tremendous support in Israel. Tremendous support in Israel from Israelis who say, you keep going. At least that's what I'm hearing. You keep going. Another thing, we have to get rid of this trope that says you're anti-Semitic. There are people who are anti-Semitic. Oh, let me tell you something. I mentioned this Anna Kasparian again. This is a child. This is the distaff component to the young turds and junk yogurt. And he and I, we'll put it this way, I'm in agreement with a lot of what he says now, whereas before I was not. I did not necessarily agree with him or see it his way. In any event. So junk yogurt is doing his thing. Okay. She's getting, I guess, she wants to be the Abby Martin or the Katie Halper or there's a young lady who talks like this. She's very, very smart. I don't know. I see her every now and then. She's very, very smart. Anna Emphysema all of a sudden realizes I'm a big deal. Sparky says people should follow Brian Berletic of the New Atlas. He studies publicly published DC think tank papers and quotes them as evidence of DC's continuity of agenda, no matter who's president. Interesting. That's very good. We'll make a note of that. So Anna, oh, I see Berletic. Yeah, he's good. New Atlas. I watch him all the time. Yes. It's funny you say that. Danny Haifong, I like Max Blumenthal, Pepe Escobar, Alistair Crook, Ben Norton to an extent. There's a lot of folks out there. Anyway, and remember, don't just listen to somebody who repeats your idea. Don't listen to all folks. In any event, going back to what I was saying. So this young gal, I think she's a little over her head because she cannot involve herself without screaming and yelling. And she and others hate Israel, but also hate Bibi. I've heard George Galloway say things that are almost like, take it down a notch. You're losing your perspective. The moment you become a little bit, dare I say, when you take this thing personally, you lose the audience. Mike Tyson will be the first one to tell you, if you find yourself in the position of being in a boxing match, professional, you cannot lose your mind and you cannot take it personally. You cannot do this. You cannot take it personally. You can't be in the position of finding yourself losing your mind in a fight because they're going to take advantage of you. You can't get upset. So I don't understand this yelling. Max Blumenthal, I really enjoy. He never loses his mind. Never. He might raise his voice just to be heard at a press conference, but he never loses his perspective. He's not a lunatic. Same thing with Aaron Mate and others. Very, very smart. Katie Halper. A lot of people. Now, let me just say something right now. All of these people and I do not agree on a lot of other stuff. In fact, most of these people would not agree with President Trump on anything else. I do. Carla says, I'm, Sephardim. I love my heritage, but America will always come first. I call it loyalty to the country that gave my family freedom, opportunity in the future. Yes, the Sephardic versus the Ashkenazi. With all due respect, Carla, and I appreciate your candor, I am an American. I do not owe any affiliation to anything other than American. I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm pretty much retired from that. Any ethnicity I have means nothing to me. I can point to people. I'm an American. I don't understand. And the issue probably, by the way, Christian says, there are over 100,000 clerics in Iran. They're like weeds, lots of bench warmers waiting to suit up for the spot. When you say clerics, we say that, by the way, disparagingly, not you. But we say that as though they're crazy. They're not crazy. But let me explain something which is the most important. See if you can follow me on this one. Listen to me carefully. There are people who say, I am an American. Listen, this is carefully. Listen to this. I am an American citizen, born in Milwaukee, born in New York, born in whatever. I'm from here. 3, 4, 5 generations. My faith is Jewish. This is what they're saying. They say, my faith is Judaism. Okay. You're Christian, you're Muslim, my faith is this. Okay. But they will necessarily connect with Israel because of the connection. And this is where the Zionism comes into play. There are many people who say, I am a Muslim, but I have no connection with Syria. I'm a Muslim, but I have no connection with Iran. I'm a Muslim. I'm here in this country, and I have no connection with Lebanon. Or it doesn't really matter. There's nothing like it. There are people, and listen to what I'm saying. This is the argument that's being made. There are people who say that because I am of a Jewish faith, I necessarily must be in lockstep with Israel. Because Israel, and this is the Zionism connection. This is like nothing else. What was the expression? Israel is to the Jew what Japan is to the Japanese. Do you understand what I'm saying? There are many folks who say, perfect example, and Carla, you might be able to repeat because you're a little different. Being, would you be brasileira? I don't know what the particular phrase is. A lot of folks confuse the Hispanic, Spanish, Latino. They get them all confused. Spain, Ecuadorian, Guatemalan, Mexican, Cuban, Puerto Rican, they have nothing to do with each other. Nothing. Nothing. In fact, they don't like each other. I shouldn't say I'm being overgeneralized. But here in New York, Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, different story altogether. You would have never made the connection. You would have said, what does speaking Spanish or coming from a Spanish country have to do with me being pro-Latino? That's what people thought during the whole the immigration problem. They thought for sure. They said, well, obviously, this is, Trump and these people, they're anti-Hispanic. And say, no, they're not. What are you talking about? This has nothing to do with it. In fact, this is the most interesting thing in the world. When you try to gain allegiance, a lot of folks said to themselves, there's cut up chatter says, any group affinity should be worthy of its defense. Any group should be worthy of its defense. Yeah, I guess. That's interesting. But thank you. But there are people, by the way, who said the biggest mistake people made is for the left to believe that Latinos are for illegal aliens. They said, oh, no, we're not. Wait a minute. This has nothing to do with it. Nothing. Yeah, we're Spanish, or we speak Spanish, or we're Latino, whatever you call it. But no. Years ago, Prop 8 was the gay marriage proposition in California. And people were under the belief, under the thinking that because black folks were denied the right or the ability to marry because they were unable to marry, and because it took Loving against Virginia, the Supreme Court case in 1967, to strike down anti-miscegenation laws, many people said, well, obviously black folks are going to be 100% in lockstep with us because they were denied the right to marry whom they loved based upon something. And black folks said, do you think being gay is the same as being black? What, are you kidding me? Hell no. The two have nothing to do with each other. And they couldn't believe it. Do you know the number of Jewish, now not Israeli, but Jewish Americans who are not Zionist or who make no connection whatsoever to the state of Israel? It has nothing to do with their faith. This, when you tell people this, they say, what, are you crazy? Because for the longest time, this connection, albeit deliberate, has been made. And people are saying there are people who not only are not Zionists, but who are not in favor of Bibi Netanyahu, or who don't like Israel's tactics or whatever it is, and they're called anti-Semitic. Let me say that again. Jews are called anti-Semitic because that trope, that meme, that distinction doesn't make any sense. So you got to understand all these moving parts here. It's a fascinating thing. I don't pray. I don't. The idea that I have to pray, that you mean God, if there is a God, God is going to not do something because he's waiting for me to approve. It's like, okay, I'll do that. I'll cure that tumor from that infant, but only if you pray for it. I don't understand that. So my prayer to me is, it doesn't really matter in the scheme of things, but that's my own belief, and that's a different story. But if ever I hope and wish and send positive energy, it's that somebody will get to the president and saying, what are you doing? You can still be tough. You can still be the George Washington, the Ulysses S. Grant, or whatever you want to call it, of your time, the General Patton, but not like this. Ike would never do this. Reagan would never do this. Nixon would never do this. Kissinger would never do this. Paleo-conservatives would never do this. This isn't even neocon. There were other folks who, not all neocons are necessarily on board with this. Not every Leo Strauss. And by the way, years ago, it was considered, and it was suggested that, like Pat Buchanan said, that neocons are another way of saying either Jewish or Israel. And they said, no, that's not really it. When you find out the connection that was made between Bibi and our war in Iraq, Sparky says, by the way, Sephardic Jews saved the British colony of Georgia. The initial colonists were dying of some epidemic, and the second group of colonists, Sephardic Jews, who had a great doctor among them, saved Georgia. I did not know that. That's fascinating, and I thank you for that. I am saying to you, my friends, and I am putting this out there yet again, as we say, this has nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do with religion. Nothing. Nothing. This has nothing to do with anything even remotely reminiscent of religion. It's not about Christianity. It's not about the second coming. It's not about the eschatology, the end of times, Armageddon, tribulation. None of that. That's crazy talk. I'm sorry. Not that the Bible's wrong, but that's not what we're doing here. This is insane. I don't know what's going on. I hope President Trump can walk back from this. I hope he takes a nap and says, wait a minute, what was I thinking? I hope he takes all of the people that he's working with right now, and I hope he fires them. People who are actually causing and calling for the death of people, which will be the death of MAGA and his legacy. Americans don't want this. Nobody is calling for this. Nobody. 9/11 is one thing. 9/11 made a lot of sense, at least, afterwards. Syria, I'm not Syria, but this is a different story. So, my friends, let me thank you for your, first of all, incredible input. We will pick this up again at 6 p.m. tonight. Make sure you are there. Make sure you are signed up to Lionel Nation. Make sure you are subscribed to this. And understand, this is my pledge to you. I want to give you the most comprehensive, non-emotional, Cut-Up says, we expected this. Well, I frankly didn't think so. I didn't think so. I didn't think the president would even do this. This is crazy. I hope he's okay upstairs. I think he is. But I'm worried. I'm worried about people maybe who get a little older. And sometimes they can change very drastically. I don't know. We just went through 4 years of a president who wasn't even there. So, but I hope you recognize, I want to give you the most comprehensive, the fairest. I want to be able to allow people to talk about this. I don't want to scream and yell, but I'm telling you, absolutely, without screaming and yelling, this is insane. This makes no sense. And the worst part about it is it's unnecessary. It's an unforced error. It's an own goal. This is not necessary. None. It's like getting involved with Taiwan or, dear God, no. And I don't know how the president is bluffing. I don't know how this is a psych or some kind of a master manipulation, a master deal. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how that works. So we're going to be talking later on. Sparky says, oh, I'm sorry, not Sparky. Carla says, Reagan wasn't the same after Bang Bang. No, he wasn't. You know why? Reagan, however, lost a lot of blood, Carla. And when he had a blood transfusion, the replacement blood, they say, was not warmed, and he immediately was definitely, absolutely different by virtue of that. And there might have been some concomitant independent Alzheimer's or whatever that was moving in. As far as Trump, I don't think President Trump, again, I don't know him, I don't see him, but this is behavior that doesn't make any sense. A man who champions himself as the art of the deal, the smart man, the art of the deal. See what I'm saying? Clever, smart, negotiating, not ham-fisted, not ham-hammered, if that makes any sense. So, in any event, please accept my thanks to all of us, to all of you wonderful folks. There are so many people to thank for this. Well, let me just say it. Let me just go through this. I've got plenty of time. You were nice enough to contribute. Carla, Sparky, Cut Up Chatter, thank you so much. Christian Janice, you are so wonderful. Andrew Hessing, let me see. Thank you. I don't want to leave anybody out. It means a lot. Pilgrim, I want to thank you. I think I said B. Seminole, thank you. Bradley Opland, thank you. Raul Rodriguez. Let me see. I want to make sure that everybody is noted. Warren Ocasio, thank you. Barry Taylor, thank you. Sparky, I think I said Sparky before. And yes, and that's it. Thank you immensely for that. We will reconvene. Sparky says, you missed my super chat. Wait a minute. Dear God, no. Hang on a minute. Why am I not able to reach this? Hang on a second. Let me see this. Let me see. Just a minute. Let me go down here. Just a minute. Sparky says, you missed my super chat. Let me go back. Sparky, is it this one? The Sephardics? I got this about Georgia. I got that one. The Sephardics who saved Georgia were from London. Maybe their ancestors, were refugees from the Spanish Inquisition. You think it's tough to find a good doctor nowadays in Georgia? Nowadays, Georgia was lucky. Thank you for that. I do not know this. But you do realize many people have suggested that the idea that, and now that others discuss this, how some people claim a connection between all of a sudden Jewish people and Israel. I'm not going to argue the point, but some have had no connection whatsoever. They're European, Eastern European. They have to, or Sephardic, they've never been apart. From the, dare I say, the Nakba in 48, the removal, the ouster of Palestinians who were there. We're not going to get into that argument. I'm just going to tell you that is another issue which has nothing to do with this. Interesting, but not relevant to this. So we will be back tonight at 6 p.m. Remember, July the 19th at the Cutting Room. July the 19th. Please make sure you join us. I would love to see you. Tickets are available. It's going to be packed. So hurry up. July the 19th at the Cutting Room. Don't forget, sign up for Lionel Nation right here. Mrs. L at Lionel at Lynn's Warriors. And also our sister channel, if you will, Lionel Legal. And every morning, overnights, 1 to 5 a.m. on WABC. Check that one out. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious. Thank you so much for your kindness, for your brilliance. We will pick up tonight, 6 o'clock. A little earlier, 6 o'clock. And until then, my friends, remember these words. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya.